Hello, everybody, and welcome to this EDA Summit session on powering your real-time event-driven enterprise with PubSub Plus platform. My name is Shawn McAllister, and I'm the Chief Technology and Chief Product Officer at Solace. And so I'll be talking with you throughout this session. And what I thought I would do is take you through a bit of a journey of Solace's experience in EDA applications, starting in capital markets, which is where we started, and how those markets evolved and moved to more, how EDA moved to more and more markets, and how our platform then evolved to satisfy the needs of these various applications. And hopefully you can relate to some of these things and see yourself in what we're doing here. So as we start with capital markets, which is, as I say, where Solace started, capital markets became digital or electronic over 20 years ago. And so they embedded into systems various things that they did as part of their processing, right? So they had, of course, on-prem applications that did things like distribute market data, reference data, did settlements, reported to the regulators. But the thing is, the magic really happened in these co-location centers. And these are data centers that are not owned by the bank or the buy-side firm, and they're shared. So they're kind of like the clouds that you have today. And those co-location centers were then located close to the execution venues where a lot of the trading happened. And within each of these co-location centers, you have multiple applications. It was a distributed system where you would have feed handlers processing pricing that's coming in. You would have matching engines, you'd have execution gateways, smart order routers, and these various systems inside the co-location center would work together in a real-time event-driven manner to take in orders and execute trades, and then would then work with systems on the back end, like the settlement and regulatory reporting systems in a hybrid manner between these data centers. And most of the participants, the banks and the buy-side firms, also have businesses in different financial centers and need to share information among those financial centers. And so they would create what we now call an event mesh, which is a network of event brokers all connected together that allows information in New York to be shared in London and Hong Kong and Tokyo in real time. And this is what we helped our clients do. This is what we helped our banking and our buy-side customers do, is to create this event mesh, which gave them the ability to share information in real time in a low latency, high performance, highly resilient, WAN optimized, secure manner as they moved to becoming real time and distributed. And so many more verticals are following that exact same path that capital markets followed. So if you look at retail, for example, becoming event-driven, and really retail having had significant transformations accelerated due to COVID, really, where they, of course, have on-prem systems that they've had for many years, whether they're ERP systems or warehouse management systems, but there's far more to retail business than that. And so many retailers that we work with are moving some of their applications into the cloud. In some cases, rebuilding them like fulfillment and logistics systems, rebuilding them as event-driven microservices. In other cases, building new ones like new omni-channel and e-commerce applications, doing operational business intelligence and recommendations, again, all very conducive to cloud deployment. And then having to have those cloud-based applications interact with their on-premise applications in real time. And then, of course, from a retail point of view, things also happen in various other places, right? Like in the stores. Stores are becoming much more intelligent, need to be connected. Distribution centers, warehouses. And then things in the warehouses and distribution centers where, whenever a truck arrives, they want to be able to monitor the progress of the truck and then have the forklift takes a pallet off and drive past an RFID reader and know where to put it. That kind of intelligence is happening in real time. Within stores, you have to manage the inventory that's on shelf versus in the back office versus what is coming from the distribution center. As customers check out and purchase things at the point of sale, you want to update the customer loyalty. Retailers are building new applications, which is the ability to order something online, show up at the parking lot, text a message, and have someone come out and bring you your goods. So you have pickers and inventory and delivery all needing to be coordinated. And they're building this, in many cases, with an event mesh that connects all of these systems together across hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, and their different locations. And then if we turn to manufacturing, which is of course becoming much more event-driven also, and you see a pattern emerging here, right, where there are systems on-prem, like your ERP, your master data management, and moving more applications to cloud services. So inventory management, order management, having digital factory initiatives, for example, supply chain management. They also have factories and they have very intelligent things in their factories today, lots of automation, again, all connected through an event mesh so that events that are produced in any of these places can be consumed in any of these places. And what's quite interesting as well is that, especially in the case of manufacturers, this ability to be real-time connected fairly ubiquitously is giving rise to new business opportunities and new business models. So, we have clients of ours, for example, who produce elevators and escalators, and they sell those to their clients, but now they're also offering enhanced service management, which you see in purple there, where they monitor the elevators and escalators in real time, and they can detect, overheating, they can detect vibrations, and they can proactively schedule a crew to do maintenance to avoid downtime. Or if something does break, they can be notified of it instantly and again, dispatch a crew maybe before anybody in the airport or in the office building knows about it. We have, customers who sell printers, for example, who instead of, moving away from just selling printers to offering the sale of printed paper. So they need in real time to be able to monitor ink levels and paper levels and the health of the printer so that they can provide that proactive service to the customer where, it just all works. And this provides a recurring revenue model as opposed to a CapEx transactional model that enhances both the manufacturer and the user's life. So great things coming from the ability to be real-time connected across your enterprise. And really, those are the attributes of a Solace event mesh, is that we would provide a hybrid multi-cloud environment or mesh between all of your applications. So you're not locked into a cloud so that you can expand your on-prem into the clouds. So a mesh that provides dynamic routing, so you don't have to configure what events go to what places. An event mesh that scales, gives you the scale that you need, the performance, the robustness, the WAN optimization, and then in turn allows you to be a real-time, connected, agile, and innovative business. And associated with that, from a technology point of view, is our ability to connect all the things in your enterprise. So whether it is new integrations through iPaaS, your API management systems and your API gateways, to connect into databases so that they can be event sources. So as things change in your database, you can capture those through change data capture and emit them into your event mesh. We can connect, your legacy messaging applications and your new streaming applications. We very oftentimes see Kafka clusters around the edges of the event mesh, and those can be event sources and event syncs to the event mesh. We provide the capability, we have Spring Cloud Stream Binders, so you can build microservices in Spring or in Node.js, or we can trigger serverless functions directly from our brokers. Connect and provide events into your favorite analytics platform. So choose the analytics that you want and we can integrate with it. And we already talked about connecting your places and your IoT devices. And all of this then allows you what I would say is like the Internet of Events in your enterprise. Okay, so now, and if you take a look, I should say that, many more industries are adopting this. So it's not just the ones that I've talked about, right? All these industries are really embracing EDA, partially because they have these technology imperatives where all these industries are building new forms of integration, adopting industrial IoT, building microservices. And really our view is that that EDA is not a separate concept or separate thing to these technology imperatives and to the need to be connected as a business. They work hand in hand. And that what you really need to be successful in your EDA journey is two things in particular. One is the ability to have an event streaming platform, an event streaming network that we call an event mesh. And the other thing is the ability to have event management so that the events flowing over your event mesh can be governed and lifecycle managed and discovered. And we'll talk about that so that you can monetize the information flowing over your event mesh. So now we'll talk about those two concepts in a bit more detail, starting with the event mesh. Now, event mesh is a layer in your architecture that allows an application anywhere in your architecture to produce an event, and applications anywhere else in your architecture to consume those events in a hybrid multi-cloud manner. And so an event mesh is to events very much like what a service mesh is in Kubernetes, if you're familiar with that. Where what service mesh does is it's a layer that provides mediated communication between RESTful applications or RESTful services. Okay, so that your application has to do less worrying about, about routing, about blue-green deployment and things like that, and security. So event mesh provides that analogous capability between event-driven services. So you can connect into your event mesh, produce an event, don't worry about it anymore, and consumers can consume it wherever they're deployed. And on the right-hand side, this is a chart from Gartner that they built in 2019 or released in 2019, where they said, look, if you do the things on the left, if you used to do messaging, for example, in your traditional platform, then as part of a digital business, what you should be doing is building an event mesh, because Gartner understood that having an event broker or a single cluster is just not enough. You need to have this layer ubiquitously throughout your network to create this internet of events. And so how does an event mesh work? Well, in the Solace case, what you do is, let's say you want to connect your multiple clouds here, your public clouds, your private clouds, and on the bottom you have your on-prem non-cloud environment, maybe that you started with. So you deploy your event brokers in all these locations where you have applications close to your applications. And so that, similar to what you would do with databases, you put databases close to the apps because it's a more reliable, faster communication between the apps and your infrastructure. Then you connect the event brokers together, and that forms a network. And the Solace brokers then run a dynamic routing protocol that allow events to be routed. And I'll explain how that works. So let's say you're producing events into your event mesh. So that red arrow is producing, order updates or inventory changes, CRM changes into your event mesh. Now you want to deploy an application in AWS, a new microservice that is going to consume some of these purchase order changes and do something with them. And so that application, you deploy it in AWS, it connects into the event mesh, and it subscribes to the events that it's interested in. And what the event mesh then does is it uses its dynamic routing protocol to route those red events, those purchase order events, from where they're produced into AWS to be consumed by that application. And the consuming application didn't need to know where the events were coming from. They didn't have to configure anything. The events were just automatically delivered to that application. And it's like the internet of today, right? So if you have a hyperlink from an email or somewhere and you click on that hyperlink, you go straight to that website from your browser, and you didn't need to know where that website was or how to get there. It just worked. This is the same thing. You connect to the event mesh, you subscribe to the topics that you want, and they're delivered. And so you could have another application in Google that wants to consume these same purchase order events. It connects, it subscribes, they're delivered. That application disconnects, the events stop flowing, all automatic. And of course, you can produce events from the cloud and send them back on-prem down to perhaps what's on the bottom there, a Boomi Atom, to integrate maybe back into some existing system of record that is on your premises, or have those same events consumed by Beam and Google and doing analytics on them. Okay, so now you have your network of event brokers all over the place, and you go, well, so how do I manage all these event brokers? And that is where our single pane of glass management comes into play. So Solace Cloud, which is our SaaS, has a module called Mission Control. And what Mission Control does is it's this single point that allows you to deploy, scale, manage, and upgrade event brokers, no matter where they live in your environment. And so if you look at the clouds on the right, AWS, Azure, and Google, what you can do is you can have your own private VPC. It's a VPC dedicated to your enterprise. You could own it, or Solace can own it, but the networking is controlled as part of a private VPC, and you can control the encryption keys and the certificates as part of your own environment. And that can all be then managed, though, through Mission Control, where you go to the Mission Control console, and you can start up and shut down and scale brokers in any of these clouds, including a Kubernetes cloud, private cloud on-prem, or anywhere that you'd like. And then you can connect them together into an event mesh. So those solid green lines would show where information events would flow between the brokers. So you could have an event produced in a factory that is consumed in AWS by a microservice and by Beam in Google and be able to be processed. And this event mesh infrastructure then we can provide operational visibility through a module called Insights, another application of Solace Cloud. And so Insights gives you a single pane of glass where you can see all the alerts, all the metrics, all of your, your disk utilization, your message flow. You can do capacity planning. You can respond to issues all through that one single console. And so what this really gives you, I think, is the best of both worlds. So you can have the control and security of a private solution where brokers are deployed inside your private VPC with your own encryption keys and your own certificates, but you have the flexibility and the convenience of a SaaS because Mission Control and Insights are a SaaS managed by us, upgraded by us, with new functionality being added every week that you just take advantage of to manage your event mesh, but yet your data all stays private to your own environment. It's the best. And so at the edge of your event mesh, as we talked about, you need strong on and off ramps because you need to be able to connect to your heritage applications, your JMS applications, your JDBC applications, and your messaging, your legacy messaging systems, but you also want to move to more modern environments. And so our event broker is inherently and intentionally multi-protocol. So the Solace Event Broker natively terminates MQTT protocol, which is used for IoT and mobile applications. It terminates REST so that we can issue webhooks from the broker, or any application that can do a post, which pretty much all environments can. If you can do a post, you can be a producer of events just by doing a post into the Solace Event Broker. Same thing with AMQP, which we terminate natively. And this means, no proxies, nothing, between the application and the broker. You terminate it directly in the broker, which is fewer moving parts, better security, better performance, better robustness. We have custom connectors into popular iPaaS like Boomi and MuleSoft. We have, of course, our own client libraries in a variety of languages, C, Java, Python, Go, and of course, Spring microservices very easily built on Solace as well. And then on the bottom left, we have connectors into your existing messaging services and into non-event capable applications. So CDC connectors, file adapters, things like that, so that you can easily take data as it changes and make them into events in your event mesh and share them. So that's everything about the event mesh now, how it's created and managed and monitored. Now let's talk about the management of the data, the events flowing over your event mesh. So as you add more and more applications to your into your EDA environment down at the bottom, right? If you don't have some kind of an event management tool, like the business value, the ROI kind of tails off. Because producing more and more events, if you can't find them and reuse them, means you can't monetize them as much, right? People reinvent the wheel, or they use the wrong data sources, or you start to build an application to use a particular event only to find out it's being decommissioned shortly afterwards, right? Because you have no way of managing these events. Whereas with an event management tool that allows you to more easily discover and reuse events, make sure you're using the correct events, ensure proper security of those events, the business value and the ROI of your EDA is much, much better. And certainly reuse is the number one factor. Being able to find the event that I want and consume it very quickly without, and get on with building my app is key. And this is where is the benefit of exposing events as data products and thinking about them that way. But also, the benefits of this tool are lifecycle management, so that you can move events from dev to prod to QA, and you kind of know which event is where and what data is where, and you can deprecate events without impacting your users. You can share and encourage and enforce best practices. You can ensure data governance. And very importantly, you can provide developer tooling. So for example, in the Solace Event Portal, which is our tool to do this, you can export an async API definition, and an async API is to eventing what Open API is to RESTful services. And that async API definition can then be used for code generation. Again, reducing the burden on your developers to building new applications. And event management is while it is new to eventing, it's not new to API management. And how did APIs, become such a dominant technology? Well, if you look at API gateways themselves, they manage communication between clients and providers. But it's the API portals or the developer portals that allow then developers to publish RESTful APIs and endpoints, and to describe them properly and to make them discoverable, and therefore make them reusable by other applications. And that's where things took off from an API economy point of view, from a composite application point of view. And in the eventing world, we've had event brokers for some time now, but we haven't had the same level of management of the data flowing over an event broker until now. And this is where Solace has created the first event portal to allow management of data, of events, over your EDA. And so the Solace event portal is the single place where architects and developers can work together to define, review, approve, then catalog, share, discover, and lifecycle manage your events and your schemas to ensure data reuse, and to document your event-driven microservices. And the Solace event portal in particular supports not only Solace event brokers, but various forms of Kafka event brokers, so Apache, AWS MSK, and Confluent, because in a typical EDA environment, you have a Solace event mesh in the middle, and we very typically have Kafka clusters at the edges as event sources or sinks. And our customers that we've talked to, they want a single tool. They don't want multiple tools to manage their events. They want just one. So this one event portal from Solace allows you to manage the events and schemas in your Kafka environment, as well as your Solace environment, from one console. And in the event portal is where you define, your event ontology, your topic taxonomy. It's where your catalog, your discovery, everything happens in the event portal. And really, there's kind of two types of applications that we see, two uses of it. One is to develop event-driven microservices. So I was talking about, clients of ours who are building payment systems, fulfillment systems, betting systems, now as new event-driven microservices. So you want to define the applications and what they do, the events that they emit, the events that they're supposed to consume, and properly define the interfaces, the events, between these applications in kind of a design first, contract first approach, so that after you design all that out, then the teams can go and build it. And at least as importantly, if not more importantly, over time, you have a documented view of the applications and how they interact and how you're evolving and changing the interfaces. And that becomes a critical way to understand your system. So that's use number one. The second use is events as data products, such as an event-driven integration use cases or data mesh use cases, where you define your events as data products that are to be shared and widely consumed in the enterprise. So this is where you need the ability to curate your events, bring them together into data products, think about the consumers of them, version them, release them, make them searchable in a catalog so that people can actually discover them and subscribe to them and reuse them. And that's what drives the high ROI, because you know what events you're getting, you can find them, you don't reinvent the wheel, and you're using the events that you actually need. So again, very critical to have this kind of a catalog capability to be able to offer these event-driven data products. And so that is all about the Solace platform, where this event mesh with our event brokers give you this hybrid multi-cloud internet of events, if you will, throughout all of your enterprise, that connects everything in your enterprise, your heritage applications, your new applications, your analytics. This event mesh can be managed and monitored from a single point, a single pane of glass management, and all the data, the events flowing over your event mesh, also managed from a single event portal for both the Solace brokers in your event mesh and also the Kafka clusters at the edges of your event mesh, all from one place. So that's the end of my presentation, and I thank you all for attending. If you have any questions, we'd love to engage with you, learn, what you're doing. If you have questions for us, please contact me or contact anyone at Solace, at Solace. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the EDA Summit. Thank you again for joining.